Okay, I'm messing around with the new ring light that I got, so if the lighting is off, then I apologize. I do really like to try to film everything in natural lighting, but it gets dark at 4 p.m. here in the dead of winter, so that's just not always possible, you know? Okay. Okay, I am a terrible person. I almost forgot to film this video for you guys and get it up in time before January ends, because it's another kind of like roundup, what did we accomplish in 2020 video. I'm sure you've guessed it by the title, but it is all of the eyeshadows that I hit pan on part 2. I did earlier in the year as a collab video with Laura, Kaylee, and Nat, film a like how many pans of eyeshadow have I hit in the year 2020, which looked at all of the pans that I had hit from, we called it from January to June, but I filmed it at the end of May and it was posted in June, so it did not include my June pans. So today we are going to sit down and look at all of my pans that I have hit in my eyeshadows from June 2020 till December 2020. I will link the part 1 video down below for you guys because I'm not going to rehash all of those pans, as well as I also did this video in 2019, so I will leave that link down below for you as well. We are going to get in, just look at the pans, and then I will compare some statistics and numbers for you guys. So if that sounds interesting to you, then just let me do a quick little camera cut and get my act together. All right, so I have all of the eyeshadow pans that I've hit written down, sitting like on my lap. So if you see me looking down, that is why. We will get into it. We will just go palette by palette, not really by date, but just know these were all the pans that I hit from June to December of 2020. So we are going to first start off with the Morphe 35OM palette, the Nature Glow palette. This was gifted to me from Kaylee, and I do apologize. It is a very reflective like background, and the ring light picks up on it on the inside. And so I think what I'm going to do is kind of bring it in close to you guys so that you can get a good look at the palette and all of the pan, and then I will bring it back out and we will talk about the pans that we have hit. So I hit pan in this first shade, which I call A1, and then I did hit pan in this second shade, so A2. And then I hit pan in this shade right here, which is B3. I do know this one came from my Pan Those eyeshadows. And then I hit pan in the shade C2, which is, there's barely any like shadow left around in there. It might have looked like an empty pan, but this is my go-to eyebrow shade, and I really hope to finish this shadow off within this year. But I also hit pan on the shade next to it, which would be C3. It's an interesting pan shape because as I'm finishing off this one, I'm playing around with some of the other like brown gray kind of colors from this palette to figure out what eyebrow shade I want to move on to next. And so that's how I hit pan in this one. And that is all of the pan from this palette that I hit so far in the year 2020. Okay, the next palette we will take a look at is the Tati Beauty Texture Neutrals Volume 1 palette. Now I have since depotted mine. If you guys didn't know, this is a magnetic palette, so you can easily pop out your shades. The only things that are currently living in here for me are the glitter shades, which are the only things that we need to talk about. So from June on, before, like in the round 1 video, you saw that we had hit pan on these 2 glitters, but we have now since hit pan on the Memory Glitter, the Ritual Glitter, the Story Glitter, and the Poet Glitter. Did I get those right? I did not get those right. It's Memory, Ritual, Story, and Soothe. Those are the glitters that we have hit pan on, and I do count these in my eyeshadow like pans. All right, next let's talk about my ABH Subculture, which I have depotted. I'm pretty sure you guys are all familiar with this, but I will open it up for you. It's been a long time since you've seen it, so are you ready for this? Here is what it is looking like. So the shades that we have hit pan on since you guys last saw my last pans video is we hit pan on Edge. We also hit pan on All Star, which is the purple. We hit pan on Roxy down here. We also hit pan on New Wave, as well as hitting pan on Fudge. And then this shade we did hit pan on as well within the June to December like time frame. But this is from the Lorac Mega Pro 1. It is the Mega Pro 4. It is the depotted shade Spice. So that is all of the pan coming from that palette. Next, we will look at the ABH Jackie Ina palette. So this was in my Pan Those Eyeshadows, and in the November update, I had hit pan on this. So I only have one pan in this palette, and it is the shade Lithuanian right there. I think you guys can see it. Nice shiny pan. So yeah, really excited about that. I really do enjoy this palette, and I cannot wait to get it looking more loved. Okay, so I had just posted a video where I depotted all of my Kaleidos palettes, not for good though. I did save all of my packaging, but I combined them all into one palette, so that's why you're seeing this as a single. But this is from the Kaleidos Futurism 7, the Shishimi City palette, and it is the shade Gourmet, and hopefully you can tell, I think right there you saw like the little flicker of pan. We do have pan in this shade. Okay, next is what we will talk about is my ColourPop Blush Crush palette, and I'm sure you guys have heard me say this before. This is not in all reality Blush Crush. A few of these shades are from Blush Crush, but this is kind of a combination of not only Blush Crush, but Sweet Talk and Strawberry Shake. So I have them labeled on the back, their correct shade names and where they come from, like what palette. But for the sake of this video, I just have them named out as they correspond to the where they're sitting at in the palette, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. But either way, let's look at this. So we have pan on the 1, which is this like really light pinky color up there. And then we have pan on Blossom Up, which is this one right here. And I really do think this actually is Blossom Up. And then we have pan on Blush Wine, which if I'm not mistaken is this one. It is this one, Blush Wine, but this is actually the ICYMI shade from the Sweet Talk palette. All right, the next palette we will look at is from Oma Beauty. It is the Black Magic Allure palette. This is in my current rotation for Pan Those Eyeshadows, but I only have one pan in this palette as I am sitting here talking to you today. It is in the shade Mystical. I really do enjoy this palette as well. I don't need to keep saying that. I enjoy all of my palettes. All right, the next palette we will talk about is the Juvia's Place Saharan palette. Now, the shade that is in here is sitting in the pan for Wodabi, but that shade was depotted from, a friend depotted it. So I put in its place a ColourPop single in the shade Carrot Cake. That was the closest shade match that I had to make this palette complete again. So that is the shade that I have pan on right there, is the Carrot Cake shade, but you're seeing it where Wodabi would typically be. So yeah, another pan in the books. All right, let's next look at the Tribe palette. I absolutely love this palette, so it warms my heart to know that I have a pan in it. Now the packaging is always super reflective, and it's really hard for the camera to pick it up and register it, so hopefully you'll be able to see this if I bring it in close enough. There is just the slightest little sliver of baby pan in the lime green shade here. Yeah, I think you can see it right there. I do have a lot of good dips going on in this palette, and so I would like to get it looking more loved as well. All right, this is the last Juvia's Place palette that we will look at. This is the Nubian 2. This again was also in my Pan Those Eyeshadows, and I have pan on that top shade, third one in. It is called Sheba. Hopefully you can see right there. This was a really easy eyeshadow to hit pan in because it was a shimmer shade and it was really softly pressed compared to their matte shades, which I find to be much more harder pressed. All right, we are getting down to the wire. So the last palette that we will look at is the Profusion Chocolates palette. I am not going to flip this around because again, it's such a reflective packaging and I don't want to blind you guys. But since the last time we did this video, I have hit pan in this Glory shade. I already had pan in Blitz, but now we have this to add to our little panning stash. All right, let's look at 2 eyeshadows that I have from my depotted Lorac Mega Pro 1 palette. So the first shade is Orchid right here, and you can see the nice pan on that. Now this, the Lorac Mega Pro 1 was what I started out panning for my Pan That palette in the year of 2020. This though, I hit pan on it during my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. So it already had a lot of good use on it that I wasn't tracking, but I did, when it was in the Pan Those Eyeshadows project pan, it only took 4 uses to hit pan on it. And the next shade we will look at from Lorac is from that same Mega Pro 1 palette, but this is the shade Maroon. Nice shiny pan right there. All right, 2 more and they are single eyeshadows. So the first one is from ColourPop and it is the shade Glass Bowl. I absolutely love this shadow, and it makes my heart so happy because I've seen like a lot of other people doing like their inventory or just like different project pan videos, and a lot more people have this shade than I thought, and it warms my heart to know that we all kind of like gravitate and like similar things. And the last eyeshadow that I have to show you, now this is technically from a palette, I repressed it. This was the Violet Voss palette that they did in collaboration with Nicole Concilio. So this is the shade Zozo, and I have hit pan in this shade as well. So you can see it right there. All right, so that is all of the pans of eyeshadow that I have hit from June until December of 2020. All right, so let's look at some statistics. Why don't we? Let's take it back to that first video. Like I said, it is linked down below in case you want to go check it out. But spoiler alert, in that video, I showed you the 38 eyeshadows that I hit pan on. So in this video, where it was the second half of the year, I have just shown you the 29 additional eyeshadows that I managed to hit pan on in the year of 2020. So that brings us to a grand total of 67 total pans of eyeshadow hit within the year of 2020. I do want to go over my pan percentage stats with you. That is something that I typically include in my pan those eyeshadows, but I really think people enjoy seeing and hearing that number, so I'm going to give it to you now. I do want to say I have decluttered a few palettes, and then also at the end of the year, I typically, like if I've hit pan in a shadow as well as finished it off, for the year, I will count that as a pan in my collection. At the end of the year, I go through and I remove all of the shades that I actually finished off. So at the end of the year in December 2020, we were sitting at 58 pans of eyeshadow with 491 total pans. And I know you might be thinking to yourself like, well, Haley, you just said that you hit 67 pans within this year. That's why though, I did declutter some of those. So they don't count towards my pan percentage, but they still count as like far as like this kind of video where like I did hit that pan this year. So anyway, our pan percentage at the end of 2020 was 11.81, which I was really excited about. But now as we sit here in 2021, I just want to give it to you. We still have 58 pans in our collection, but now we have 666 total eyeshadow pans. So we have an 8.79% pan percentage within our collection. So in 2019, I hit 35 pans of eyeshadow in total, and I had 495 total eyeshadow pans in my collection. So at the end of 2019, I had a pan percentage of 7.07%. So in the year of 2020, I hit 32 more pans than I did in 2019. I hope that you guys enjoyed like taking this look. I love to see videos like this where it's like, let's just look at all the items that I panned. I really just, I kind of like seeing it all in one place and being able to like cheer the person on and being like, look at you, you go Glen Coco, as Steph would say. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm gonna stop rambling and I will just catch you in the next video. Bye.